Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could teach the gullible to never be so comfortable with eyes they eat like comfort food, to disregard the bogus claims and pseudoscientific claims? Can you imagine just how much indeed the world would change? No more political predators playing on the populace, but ilkas and plots to shift and kill metropolis. No more villains with the title in the Bible, holding phony temper Bibles like the stuff they teach is vital. Imagine it was normal to have to prove a claim you make, and folks really feel ashamed to express some content that was fake. It's not to say we never make mistakes, it's just to say we go out of our way to show the evidence it takes.
Remain skeptical while you travel the road of reason. Stay strapped with logic and facts. That's what it is, yo. Keep reality intact to help the truth grow. Question every claim, especially the ones you believe in. Remain skeptical while you travel the road of reason.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Road to Reason, a Skeptic's Guide to the 21st Century. This is Paul Sheehan, and today I'm sitting with Kayla Turzak.
Hi.
Hello, and hello out there in TV land. We're going to have a great show today. We actually can have a show where we have two Mormon brothers who got out of the church about 15 years apart, and they're going to tell us about their story. But as always, we have our normal news and announcements and joke of the week and all of that jazz, and so I thought we would jump right into that. One of the announcements I'd like to make is for people who have seen in the past, we are trying to always have donations made to our show, and we have had some success in getting Fairfax Public Access to update their website to do online payments. It's still kind of bumpy. I was at it today. There are a few technical issues with it, but they have announced on there that you can actually call a phone number and do payments over the phone weekdays from 9 to 5. That phone number is 571-749-1100. If they want to pick up the phone and give a call, you can make a donation to Road to Reason on that phone line, and they will take it over the phone. But you do need to let them know you're making it in the name of the show so that they credit our account for that, and that's very important. That's absolutely vital. Also, we want to remind our viewers that we are going to be at Reason Rally 2016, and that those donations are going to help us carry off a really great episode and help us cover expenses and whatnot for our presence there. So we're definitely looking forward to that. We will continue to be updating the news segments on our Facebook page and whatnot with updates for Reason Rally. We have a direct contact with them. We are going to be helping to produce some videos for them and showing them exclusive stuff here. And then we have some news items. And did you want to talk about either of the news items, or did you want me to bring those up?
You can bring up the news items.
Okay,
I know
we'll talk about them. So for those out there who follow our show, you know that we cover the issue of Scientology quite regularly. We've had actually some of our biggest viewed shows have been on Scientology. And the Garcias are a couple who have sued Scientology over fraud. They were basically coaxed over, I think, like a 12-year period to give hundreds of thousands of dollars to raise a cross that was going to go up on one of the buildings in downtown Clearwater. And Scientology raked in millions of dollars for what ultimately was like a $60,000 project. So the Garcias became disgruntled and they demanded their money back. And Scientology basically told them, well, you can't get your money back. You have to go through our arbitration process. But because you've been defrocked, you're not allowed in our churches to get your arbitration process. And part of their tax status says that they have to allow people to get their money back if they want it. Well, the Garcias sued, and what a federal judge has now decided, and in fact an appeals court is that they have no jurisdiction over federally of fraud inside of churches. You can basically rip off your parishioners, and it is a religious matter, and that the courts have no jurisdictions on a civil level anyway. They basically determined that they agreed with the Garcias that the arbitration process in Scientology is fraudulent, but they have no right as a court to determine what is and isn't fraudulent inside the church. So if you want to be a mob boss, my advice to you is start your own religion. You will never have to worry about being sued civilly. The courts in this country have decided that you can literally do basically anything you want to someone inside of a church, and civil recourse-wise, they have no jurisdiction. I guess criminally they still do, but whatever. The other piece of news that we have today was also kind of very similar. In Pittsburgh, federal judge Terrence F. McVeary has dismissed the Freedom from Religion Foundation's lawsuit regarding a Ten Commandments monument that was set up in New Kingston High School. He decided that the people bringing the lawsuit didn't have adequate standing because the mother and the daughter only had an issue with this monument after they took the daughter out. I believe one of the reasons they took her out was because of the monument, but basically they didn't show she was enough of a victim. Never mind the fact that this is still going on in a public school.
So how long did the lawsuit go? How long was this lawsuit? Because if the child was in the actual school when the lawsuit started, and then at the end of the lawsuit they decided to dismiss it because she wasn't actually in the school.
She was taken out of the school prior to the lawsuit, but it just goes, the underlying issue is, why is public money being used to fund a religious monument in a public school, or even if it's private funding used to, it's a public school grounds. But basically what this judge has decided is that it's not enough just to violate the law. You have to have a victim in a civil matter, someone specific, which I just, it's mind-boggling. But ladies and gentlemen, this is why we do the show that we do. Got a joke.
Okay.
But it's based on a true life experience.
Okay.
It's a true story. All right. So the other day, I'm in a restaurant and I'm eating dinner, and I ordered soup and salad. And so basically, they bring me my soup, and I look down on the soup, and I joke you not, there's a fly in my soup. So I call the waiter over. I'm like, waiter, what is this fly doing in my soup? And he looks down and he goes, well, it looks like it's praying. And I said to the waiter, well, take it away. I'm not eating that. And the waiter looks at me and goes, well, I guess his prayers were answered then, huh? All right, that was pretty awful, I know. So, all right, for our Skeptical Thinker of the Week, we're going to actually do the Skeptical Thinker of the Week is actually going to go to a website called liberaldarkness.com. They have an article over there that I think pokes some really good fun of religious absurdity. The question you have to ask yourself, is this a Po or no Po article?
And how many people are actually going to believe this article when reading it? How many people are going to take this seriously?
And with
all the vaccination scares, I don't know.
Here's the article, okay? The article is, fire ants are being laced with homosexual chemtrails to bite Christians and convert them to homosexuality. The homosexual chemtrail concoction contains a high concentration of gay endorphins. Sources confirm that several exclusive gay clubs have collected the spent sweats of late-night homosexuality and then sent them to a laboratory where they are in vitro techniques that are used to create this potent new form of biological homosexual chemtrail. Various Christian neighborhoods in Texas have been reporting a sharp increase in these chemtrail-laced fire ants, and the CDC is reporting higher incidence of homosexuality in Texas. This is all likely a part of Obama's Jade Helm invasion, but the Texas chapter of the Christian Defense League suggests homeowners spray all of their doorways with bug guard and be vigilant in not becoming victimized by one of these ants.
I think it's a part of the conspiracy, honestly, because we're coming on two fronts, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just going to go flat out with this. I do read those conspiracy articles too, that are hidden deep web, away from all the conservatives who are never on the deep web. So Yeah, so basically, like, you know, now that we've legalized gay marriage, we've hit them on the public front, but now we're getting all those, like, chemtrail, you know, chemicals too. That's why, you know, vaccinations are bad, because we're also putting that in vaccinations too, probably.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
No, it's funny because this is like, you know, you read these stories about, like, you know, since gay marriage has come out, about how Obamacare is going to be used to brainwash people. I mean, this is a parody, but it's a parody that is so on the mark with some of the lunatic kind of mentalities that are out there, that, as you pointed out, somebody will probably read this that is an extreme religious fanatic that is against gay rights, and will probably interpret this as a real story.
That's Poe's law.
It's Poe's law, man. It's just a fact of living in our times. So I think we got about a minute left before we go to break. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about again is about viewership support of our show. We really would like our viewers to make sure that they're taking the time to share these episodes on their Facebook page, that they're liking our Facebook page, that they're sharing our Facebook page, and that they're commenting on our posts. We also are always looking for really great guests, and you know, the people that are out there on the internet have great ideas of who they'd like to see on here. And we love it too. We're also always welcoming a debate. I'd like to get into it, and I'll step in front of the camera for a debate. I just don't care. Yeah,
we've tried to get in contact with several Christian ministers and trying to get in a conversation with somebody. But, yeah.
They're all chicken.
Nobody wants to debate us, because we're awesome debaters.
That's right.
We're flattening anybody comes in our way.
I can say something, but I will just keep my mouth shut.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that's we're looking for debates. We're looking for support. We're looking for your love. Anyway, I think with that, we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to have on our two guests, and we'll see you when we come back from our break.
Good. Homemade noodles. Marty, stop it. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. It reminds me, I've been thinking maybe we should try a new form of birth control. I heard about this one. It's called the IUD, intrauterine device. Or we could try the patch on your arm. Actually, I think that one goes on your butt.
Bedsider.org has birth control information and a lot more. And it's...
What do you think, then? Arm or the butt?
There's a lot of tree branches and dry brush over here. We should probably move the bonfire over there.
I'm guessing Smokey liked that idea.
This is Richard Dawkins. Doing commercials is unfamiliar territory for me, but I'm inviting you to watch Road to Reason, A Skeptic's Guide to the 21st Century, on Fairfax Public Access every Sunday. Each week the hosts tackle wishful thinking, religion, pseudoscience, and the harm they cause, with a combination of facts, humor, and community involvement. They challenge believers to defend their faith and give you, the skeptic, a voice. With live call-ins for viewers and streaming on the World Wide Web, there's never a dull moment. Don't wait. Look at them now on Facebook and YouTube, and remember to watch Road to Reason, A Skeptic's Guide to the 21st Century, or there'll be hell to pay.
You want to know something really liberating about critical thinking? It allows you to drop all your pretenses. As a critical thinker, there's a recognition that there are no more powerful words in the English language than "I don't know." It's pretty awesome, actually. Admitting you don't know shouldn't be viewed as an admission of weakness or insecurity. It's the only place where real learning and growth begin. Did you ever wonder what it is about being a child that makes life so much fun? What is it that kids have that we lose as we grow up? It's their sense of wonder and delight at discovering things. They know they don't know, and they can't wait to find out. They pester everyone with questions because they want to know everything. Unfortunately, as we get older, that sense of wonder pretty much gets beaten out of us. Socially, we're taught by our peers almost as soon as we start making friends that ignorance is not bliss. The name-calling, the ridicule, and being laughed at soon convince us that it's better to just make things up instead of admitting that we don't know. We get into this habit and pretty soon can even convince ourselves that we're experts in areas we know almost nothing about. We walk around wearing this pretense of knowledge like body armor, but really it's as thin as tissue paper because we know anyone, anywhere could find out what a fraud we are at any moment. Do you like living like that? Because I don't. And here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with not knowing. The truth is that saying I don't know is not any indication that you're a moron or lacking in any kind of intelligence. It just means you never learned or can't remember something. We are born not knowing, and it's the quest for knowledge and experience that keeps life fresh and keeps us alive. Some of the most miserable, hateful, and spiteful people I've ever known have been the ones who thought they knew exactly what was going on and didn't have anything more to learn. Don't try to tell them anything. They've got it all figured out. Those aren't the people who are changing the world for the better. They aren't even trying. It's those who want to learn, who want to discover, and want to grow. Those are the people upon whom we all depend to make the next big discoveries and take the next leap forward. They are the scientists, the inventors, the philosophers, and the leaders who can take our species to the next level in our evolution. We all have it in us to learn and grow. It starts with an honest appraisal of what we do know, what we are certain of, and being strong enough to admit that we have some more learning to do. I love critical thinking for teaching me this. I can't wait to learn more.
We're back. Okay, so basically, we are now joined by the two brothers that we were talking about, Howard and his younger brother, Jacob Cordingley. Welcome, gentlemen, to our show, Road to Reason.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be here.
Good. The reason we're having you on today is that we really were talking about the really kind of unique nature that one of you got out of the Mormon religion 15 years before the other, and that you kind of are you are brothers, and the importance that it is to have people in your life that have gone through what you've been through, and how it might make things easier to have somebody kind of relate to and not feeling alone in this world. And I wanted to take a moment and ask each of you, and we can start with Howard, when did you leave religion and under what circumstances, and how do you describe yourself now?
I left the Mormon faith when I was about 16, 17, so about 15 years ago. And I left because my girlfriend at the time introduced me to some concepts that I had never even thought about. In the Mormon faith, we have the Book of Mormon, which is another testament of Christ's time and the history of the people in America during Christ's time and around that same time of the Bible. And in the Book of Mormon, there are certain events and other things that occur that have no historical backing and no archaeological evidence. One example are horses, and another steel swords. So she just said, so how can you believe in the Book of Mormon if there are horses in it and there's no evidence that there could have been horses at that time about 2,000 to 4,000 years ago in North America?
Cool.
And I didn't have an answer, so I asked my Sunday school teachers, I asked my seminary teachers, I asked my parents, and the biggest answer they usually had was, well, you just have to have faith, we'll get that answer. And that just wasn't good enough for me, so I investigated more, looked a little bit more, and my doubts just snowballed at everything I had, so.
Fair enough.
You were quite young, though, and you grew up in the LDS Church. You were pretty into it, or were you just, being, for lack of better words, confirmed, or were you actually consider yourself a member?
So you get baptized at the age of 8 in the Mormon faith, and then as a boy you receive the priesthood at about the age of 12, And every 2 years after that, you were reconfirmed with a different title of the priesthood, if you will. So at 16, you actually are a priest, is what the title is, which is right before you become an elder, which is what you are when you go on a mission.
Well, I bet the Catholics are jealous.
Yeah.
A lot of little boy priests to hang out with.
So, what would you describe yourself now as?
Right now, I would say I'm an atheist, but more of a humanist. I mean, I don't really like putting a title to it, but I mean, based on the definition, I would be an atheist.
What about you, Jacob? What point did you start questioning your religious teachings, and where do you find yourself now in this process?
Well, I've had problems for a few years, but I have been going to church a lot, mainly because I had to with my family. My wife is a convert of the church, and I felt like I couldn't leave because she would say I was ruining the kid's life. But I've had problems with this different things of how God punishes us for certain things, but then other people who are evil still has those things, like children and stuff like that. And then I've also questioned how they're called the plan of salvation that the Mormons believe in, and how if there was no Lucifer, if Lucifer didn't fall, how that would have worked, because that wouldn't have worked. So he had to fall for what they call the plan of salvation to work, and that just doesn't seem right, that they had to have someone to be evil for it to work.
You mentioned your family. So one thing that I've seen, I've watched a lot of videos on YouTube concerning, people talking about them leaving the church. And a big thing was family. A big thing was kind of a Mormon teaching of you can't have family values outside of this church. Was that a fear for you of leaving the church means I'm not going to have a strong family?
My main fear was my ex would use my kids against me, saying that, well, now, Dad's not going, so why do I have to go? And then saying I would be ruining their faith in the church and stuff. So I just went, but I wasn't really active. A lot of times I would fall asleep during church just because it was just nothing to me. There was no spiritual part of it.
Did that in fact eventually happen? Did she in fact eventually have a problem with the kids because you were not going to church?
No, I actually left the church the same time I left my wife. So.
Okay, fair enough. Now, we were talking in our pre-interview about the missions that young Mormons go on, and there seems to be a difference between, at least on the surface, and I'm curious as to what you two think about this. You two did not go on missions, but you had another brother who did, and he is still religious. What role do you think that these missions play in indoctrinating people, and what are your thoughts on that?
I would say that the mission's not to convert the people. They go all over the world. They go mostly South America, but Africa and even Europe. And if you look at the actual numbers of the conversions and even how long the new converts stay, it's really low numbers. But the way I see it is these missions are not for the converts. It's to get a stronghold on the young kids, the 18-year-olds that are going on missions. And recently, in the last 2 years, they actually lowered the age of the missionaries from 19 to 18 for men and 21 to 19 for women. And I think the church did this because they realized that this 1 year gap, especially for boys between high school and when they went on their mission, they were losing a lot of young men. And if they instead let them go on a mission right out of high school, where all their friends and all their family are talking about it and they don't have a chance to just live life outside of high school, then I think it's really, that's the purpose. It's not for converts.
Have you seen the Book of Mormon?
The musical? Yes, I did. I saw that. saw it last year in Kansas City. It was great.
I haven't seen it.
Salt Lake City this weekend. So it's,
oh, really? Is it like a, crucifix on a demon kind of thing, or Mormons are all like, don't go watch that, it's terrible?
There was a scathing review in the Mormons newspaper.
Scathing? Really?
Yep. And right at the beginning of the review, the author admits he didn't even see it, but he's still gonna go ahead and review the musical. So
don't make fun of my religion. But,
well, I mean,
Well, I want to ask again about that so you guys are coming up on an age where it's time for you to go on a mission. What type of, now obviously the church will approach you about doing this at some point, but what do they also do as far as approaching parents and other adults to encourage you, and how did each of you get out of it?
Well, for me, since I was the youngest, I had one brother who went on a mission and then another one who didn't. And so I felt like, it's like, well, I only have those two options. And, I didn't feel comfortable, going, because I'm not good with just going to strangers and talking to them and anything like that. So I actually, in a way, I kind of jumped the gun and got married. To get out of it, which now finding out 12 years later was not the best thing to do. So,
and for me, if you actually look at the way that the church is all set up for training young men, especially, they start at a young age. It's one of those things where going on a mission is a very important thing. It's important for your salvation, and then they catch you another way with. They teach the young women that marrying a returned missionary is one of the most important things you can do. So you see these men that don't go on missions, and they're ostracized, they're pushed away, and it's really difficult for them to be still part of the community and find a wife. So I think that's another way that they really, you have no other choice if you want to be part of the community.
Yeah, and also since I didn't go, I felt out of place sometimes during church, because they would talk about all this stuff and then almost make you feel guilty. So then when you, like, the kids will probably go, well, I better go because then I'll feel guilty. And it's like, oh, this great experience that you learn all these life experience, how to live on your own, how to take care of yourself and all that stuff. Also, and recently they've changed within the last year, they changed the curriculum for the Sunday school for the children to be more unison of everything's like the same, so they get the same kind of lessons. And now they're almost kind of trying to get the kids to teach the other kids the lesson. So it's they're trying to make it so that peer pressure almost. So they get the ones who are more in the church to teach the lessons almost.
That's a great way to do it.
Yeah,
your peer pressure. And I was just going to say, it sounds to me too like there's this 72 virgins kind of thing going on with finding you a wife if you've been on a mission. It's like you go on a mission and we'll get you all the sex that you could want, or simplify that process and whatnot. I also want to say, Jacob, you do a very good job of speaking. So
thank you.
You've certainly gotten past that in your life. So here's a question for you. All right, so your older brother gets out, and he makes that known. Did that play any type of a role in your decision-making process?
Yes. Since I knew he's been out for years, and I felt like this is a great way to do it. I was like, before leaving, always sometimes like, well, when you leave the church, you're always still a member of the church. But there's actually, you can actually go through a progress to actually be totally removed, to where you're not just a inactive member, where you actually declare, basically you excommunicate yourself to where you don't have to belong to the church anymore. And if it wasn't for my brother, I wouldn't be going to be taking those steps in the next few months that I will be doing that.
And Howard, you've done that already?
I have, yeah.
What is the motivator for that?
Well, it's one of those steps that, you just to distance yourself from the religion, but also, I mean, the church itself claims about 15 million members worldwide, and if you actually look at active members that go to church, every week or quite often, that value is closer to 5 million or so. And by removing your names from the records through resigning, it's one way to get those numbers down. To kind of send a message to the church and say, even though I'm not a member, I also don't want you to count me as a member. So,
one thing. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
No, you were saying?
I read like a week or two ago that about 100 people or more last week or 2 weeks ago went to the headquarters of the church and turned in their resignation of the church as a stand against the church's view of the gay marriages.
Something to be applauded. That's good news too.
Yeah.
So I have heard some stories about the Mormon Church, and they seem kind of like a high control group. I came from a high control group to the International Church of Christ. They aren't as bad as some other control groups out there, but I find myself susceptible to a lot of black and white thinking, but it's also easier for me to spot that in other groups. Do you find yourself? What kind of indicators do you see in other groups as that indicate that they are control groups to you? Do you see things, or have you been exposed to other control groups and kind of like, I don't know?
I would say, definitely the black and white, just having, right and wrong, and there's nothing in between. That's definitely one way. But then other manipulation from gaining salvation through tithing or good works, I think that's a really big one in the Mormon community, because if that's the only way for you to gain salvation, then the reason why people are doing it is not to help people, it's to help themselves. And it's kind of a strange thing, to go help people that are really in need, but you're doing it for yourself instead of for them, and it's a strange concept.
And to go with that, a lot when I was in the church, they would tell the little kids or even like the teenagers, well, say the closing prayer and you'll get blessings, or pay tithing and you'll get blessings, or go do the service project and you'll get blessings. Well, if you're only doing it for the blessings, well, you're doing it for yourself, not to help the people or to pay tithing. And it's selfish, which if there was a God, that's not how you gain salvation.
It sounds like it's also reinforcing what you were talking about earlier with the peer pressure. Mm-hmm. Your peers see you doing it, it's normalized, and therefore it must be of God because it's going on in front of them.
And studies have shown
more than that too, because if you don't follow the tithing laws and you don't do all these things, do your callings and stuff in the church, then you lose your temple recommend and good standing in the church. And then if someone sees you, not going to the temple or doing that, then they know something else is going on. They know, well, he must be sinning or something. So people, a lot of the time, will have to lie and keep up appearances. And especially in this insular society in Utah, where almost everyone's Mormon, it can even hurt you with employment. It can hurt you if you own a business with customers coming in. So it can be a pretty big deal.
Now, Kayla, you had a question for them regarding about something similar with parents and kids in the home. What was that?
Well, we were talking a little bit before the show, and you were saying you don't have younger siblings. So this might be a moot point, but in my experience relating to my younger siblings and my family has been harder when it comes to religion. There's been some stress there. What kind of relationship do you have with your family? Are they freaked out about you leaving the church? Are they like, oh my goodness, all my children have left? What kind of conversations have you had?
Yeah, so our two older sisters have also left, leaving only, actually my twin brother has the only child left with my parents that are in the church still. And I think the way that we've handled it is it's a don't ask, don't tell. As long as we don't bring it up and they won't bring up their side. We don't talk about our side. Everything's okay. And it's been working, at least from my point of view, for a good 10 years without any issues with any of my family. So
yeah, you know, I haven't really mentioned I've left. They probably kind of know. Right now I'm currently living with my parents, so they probably kind of know, but it's just taboo. You don't talk about it. And then you don't bring up any religious point of views at all, and then you try to get out of the house if they start bringing up something, so you don't have to get in a debate with them.
Well, this actually brings up a good question. Follow-up question is, okay, you're telling me you don't bring these things up, they're unspoken. Is there a history of fallout in the past, and that's why you do it?
For me, yes, there has been. Right after I left, and I was actually in the Air Force at the time, there was a lot of back and forth and stuff, and definitely some fallback. I probably was maybe a 6 to 12 month period. I didn't even talk with my dad. We were on really bad terms. But I think just, you know, eventually that's just all under the bridge, and we kind of moved on. But yeah, there's been some contention in the past. So
there are real consequences for this sometimes as well.
I mean, once in a while I'll even post something simple on Facebook, you know, and I don't think twice about, oh no, my dad might see this, and once in a while he'll comment, and I have to hold myself back from arguing on Facebook, because that never is a good idea.
Especially with family.
But now I keep the Facebook arguments with my dad just strictly political or with climate change or something, and that way we can still argue but leave religion out of it.
Yeah. Sometimes it's better that way. So were they concerned about your soul? I mean, I'm kind of confused. So Mormons, are they nihilists, meaning do they believe that the sinners and non-repentant just get burned one time and they disappear forever, or do they actually believe in some kind of a hell? Was there concern about your soul there, or?
So, the Mormon heaven and the whole plan of salvation is very complicated. It's not Christian in any sense. You may have heard that there's 3 levels of heaven, and then there's also an outer darkness. And based on the teachings from the church, the doctrine, some people would say that us, you know, people that left the church that knew the truth, would actually be sent to the outer darkness, the hell. But most apologists would say no, because there's no way that you could leave the church if you actually knew it was true. Therefore, you just didn't know it was true to begin with, and you're just going into the lowest kingdom of heaven, which is
where murderers and rapists and
which is the celestial kingdom.
But they party down there too, right?
Right. Right. You know, you can go down there, and that's where all the alcoholics and all the people that party and stuff. But you know, the people that maybe were murderers, but later, you know, were saved or, you know, accepted Mormonism, they'll be in the highest kingdom. So
yeah. I mean, the outer darkness or hell is brought to where if you know God exists and you deny Him. That's according to the LDS teachings.
So atheists.
But I want to get this straight. There is no alcohol and partying in the upper kingdom. I want people to let that soak in for a minute.
Technically, there wouldn't be in any kingdom based on Mormons' beliefs, but the people that did that in, you know, the current life would go to the lower kingdoms. So
right.
It just seems like a better place to go. Honestly.
I'm saying,
I'm just saying, like, do I really want, as a woman, do I really want to sit there and, like, you know, only, like, maybe if he has like 7 other wives, I don't know, like once a week.
I don't know.
Right?
I'm just saying, I don't think I want to live that kind.
You'd be a baby factory for a new spirit world and a new earth. So
it just sounds like they got it backwards. It would, like, if it were me, it would be like, you know, the place you want to go was like where there's booze and partying and, you know, total like great times, and you know, it's just kind of like, I don't know, but no, I want to go to the boring place where I just sing His praises all day. Okay.
And speaking of women too, so the Mormon Church has some fun beliefs that might not be present beliefs about polygamy and treatment of women. You even just talked about how, like, they encouraged women to be kind of prizes for men after they came home from their little
Yep.
trip. So you had you were expressing before the show some opinions on that. What's your thoughts on that?
Well,
like women in the church.
I would say that they definitely have a dualistic view. And this is another reason why the gay marriage debate is so big with them, because it ruins their view on a husband and a wife and the way to raise children the correct way. And it's tough to see. A good example is my mother and how she was forced into the role that she was forced into with no choice. It's you are a stay-at-home wife, and that's changing a little bit now just with the way the economy's been going. But it's tough to they don't really have any choice in a lot of their matters. And women can't have the priesthood, which is the magical power that. Or some people call it the penishood, just because that is the only way that you can receive it. And 40 years ago, it was if you had black skin, you couldn't receive it. So there's history with both sexism and racism in the Mormon Church. And
it is interesting how religions often reflect, when they're created, of the virtues of this broader society at the time, as being somehow endorsed by God. It's kind of like you have, like, say, Scientology, its own level of crackpottery, but it's very rooted in 1950 style thinking. The Mormon religion, when it deals with sex, gender, and things like that, is definitely related in like the 1800s and so on. And so it just seems like God, his inability, to set his own pace, that isn't consistent with whatever is at the time that the religion is founded is quite amazing. I'd like to ask the question, and I'd like to start with Jacob, but this is for both of you. What has gotten better in your life, and what has gotten more difficult in your life since you have decided that you're no longer a member of the Mormon Church? And would you speak publicly on this again if you had to do it all over again?
Well, for easier, I kind of have two things, because I also love my wife at the same time. But before, when I was a member, I felt like I only had a one-day weekend, because you go, I work all week, and then I have Saturday. And then Saturday, that's when I could do yard work, all this stuff. But on Sunday, if I did mow my lawn, everybody would look at me and judge me. And because you can't work on Sunday. So, I actually have a 2-day weekend now, which is really nice to have that. And I've been actually hanging out with my family a lot more. My sisters a lot more than I had before. And being able to get to know them, have drinks and stuff like that. And it's been really nice. Leaving the church, right now, I haven't seen anything. I've only been gone about 2 months. But I haven't really seen any cons of leaving the church as of now.
What about you, Howard? You've had 15 years to go through this.
I would say that being guilt-free for just being a human is really nice. From sex life to drinking alcohol and coffee, just things that almost most people take for granted. There was an enormous amount of guilt tied to that within the Mormon Church, and when you no longer see that as a sin, it's nice to be able to just live your life the way you want to without all that guilt. And I would say the one con would be, I guess it's both good and bad, but now I'm not told exactly what I have to do, because some people like that kind of a life. They like everything set out for them, and no longer having that, for me is actually a good thing. But at the same time, you could see, I'm going on a mission, and then I get married, and then I have a family, and some people, that might be a plus.
Okay. Now, do you feel so? I guess one could also say that maybe there's a loss of community. Like, do you stop associating with people that you used to count on and whatnot?
Well, Most of my time since I left, I've lived outside of Utah and recently moved back. And there's definitely a loss of community and friends. So I would say you would have more than me with that.
Yeah, and you know, with me, I didn't really hang out with a lot of the people in the ward, and that's who you go with to church. A lot of them didn't really communicate with me before. So, I mean, there is, because you kind of make a lot of friends in the ward, most people do, and then, you go away. Now, I feel like since I left, there's probably a lot of these rumors, since I left my wife at the same time, what's going on. And, that's another thing that helps me leave, because I know that at least Utah Mormons, they're very judgmental and they gossip. And that's just something that probably shouldn't happen in the religion, according to their teachings. They are.
I had a friend of mine who was Mormon, and it was really amazing. They're not supposed to drink, they're not supposed to smoke, they're not supposed to have sex outside the marriage. Every one of them that I knew was doing all of these things, but would keep it in the closet. And it was it's I don't know of any religion that has mastered overcoming human desires. I mean, they pervert it and they twist it and make it a dangerous thing. But I don't know of anyone who has actually, through a word of some omnipotent being, has conquered drinking, sex, and smoking. They just kind of morph into their own abstract things. But we do have a caller online. We have Dante from Fairfax, Virginia. Dante, you have a question for the guests.
Well, actually, it's for the question is for everyone in attendance, since you all seem to agree on a specific point that was brought up earlier about how the Mormon Church, well, specifically religions in general, usually, at least Abrahamic ones, they generally encourage their members to do acts of charity or tithing or what have you, usually through peer pressure, sometimes through ostracization, which is usually not very fun for the people who don't want to do that. So my question is, why exactly is it a bad thing for a social group to pressure its members to do acts of charity for other social groups?
Well, I will let the brothers answer that in a moment, but I want to first state that tithings is not charity. Tithings is giving money to a church.
It's membership dues.
It's a membership dues. And if you're tying whether or not someone can stay in the church to whether they give money.
Are you required to pay tithes in order to stay in the church?
In a number of churches you are. Now, I will let them speak for their church as to whether they are or not. As far as peer pressure or any type of pressure to give to a group, that really is something I personally think is a personal choice. And if you give, say, to a charity that forces women to not have an abortion, for instance, yet they do other social things that you consider good, and you're imposing that on another person, is it really then an issue of free will? But I would like to have the brothers answer that specific question as to whether or not tithings are optional in the Mormon Church. Gentlemen, could you speak to that?
There's not a clear answer within the Mormon doctrine, that's the thing. But if you want to remain in good standing and hold your temple regimen, then absolutely yes, tithing is required.
They actually tell you, if you're having problems with money, pay your tithing, and then we will actually help you with your bills. So they'd actually rather have you pay your tithing than pay your mortgage or your light bill or buy food for your family.
And do they ever pressure you to give to other charities of any type?
They have their own charities within the church. They have a funding for food, a food donation for the local community, and that's also one of those that they don't say it's required, but it's another one where if you're not giving, it's difficult to hold good standing within the church.
And they collect that by using 12-year-old boys going around door to door collecting that money.
Right.
So then it's like, if you don't pay, then these 12-year-old boys know that, oh, this family doesn't pay fast offering, which is the first Sunday of every month.
Right.
So then it kind of guilts you into paying it because you are showing bad example to these 12-year-old boys that you don't care about the religion. So,
and to answer the caller's question, I don't think the giving service to the community itself is bad. I think it's the way that the church approaches it. I think since that is almost required a lot of the time to do that. It's like you were saying, maybe the group that you're giving the money or the service to is not one that you would agree with, but it's your only option. And then also, a lot of people will not give donations or contributions to other groups because they're like, oh, I'm already giving my contribution to the church. It's already taken care of. Mm-hmm. So I think the actual service is good and it does a lot of good within the community, but...
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dante, does that answer your question, Dante?
Sort of. Just one small other thing. I do remember hearing about how the higher-ups in the church will generally tell the peons, I guess, or the standard believers, that if they do, if they do service projects and stuff like that, they receive salvation or blessings, and somehow the fact that their intention is to receive blessing is somehow bad. I don't understand that.
Well, within the church, no, it's not bad, and those people, a lot of the time, they feel great doing it. But I guess my point bringing that up is it's just one more control tool that the church uses to make sure that its members, for one, stay busy, and also another way to control their income and know how much money that they do make. So it's if instead they separated themselves from both the tithing donations and the community service from their own congregants, then the people would be able to do what they want with their money and give it to whatever, donate it to whoever they'd like, and also donate their time. But by the church controlling all of their time and all of their available money for donation, then that's the only option.
Kayla had something she wanted to interject.
I think that the biggest thing for me has to do with the threat that's placed on people when they are not being a part of the cohesive group. If you start not paying your tithe, for instance, in my church, if you don't, if you have one sin, it's going to carry over into another sin, and you're going to end up not being a part of the church, then you go to hell. Mm-hmm. There is an eternal fire that a lot of religions are threatening you with, so that you will be a part of the group, and it makes the weight of the group's peer pressure so much more. It's so much more. That's the frustrating part for me. I think that social pressure can be a force for good, but when you attach something that the supernatural threat of eternal damnation to that tithe, to that act of doing something, it's just do it or I'm going to shoot you in the head.
Well, I think
honestly,
to what Dante's question was is like what's wrong with the blessing side of it, and I guess for me, Dante, is that it boils down to the carrot or the stick, and the question is it really a carrot? Because it's not a question of free will. It's a question of if first of all, is the blessing even a real blessing? Mm-hmm. Is there even really?
Does that matter?
Yeah, actually, it does. The truth does matter. Truth does matter, and I think what motivates people matters. I think whether or not someone is doing something for the right reasons. For reasons that are important to them as an individual is in fact paramount.
But if they're doing for the right thing, if they're doing the right thing for the wrong reason, why does the reason matter? The right thing still got done.
Well, right to whom? To them or to you? And that's the real question: is whether or not it's right to them. And
generally, these projects are helping the community in general, not specifically the church.
Well, I think that's, with all respect, I think that's a generalized statement. I think that I think the idea is that churches will all claim that they're benefiting the communities. The question is to what degree. If they collect X amount of money and they give 2% of that to the community back in, say, the form of a food bank, is it really benefiting the community, or is that just a public relations image trick? Why can't people give without a church being involved? Why does the attachment to eternal damnation or eternal salvation have to be attached to giving a sandwich to someone?
well, I'm just still not convinced that it's wrong.
Okay, well, and certainly you're entitled to that, and I'm not trying to rush you off the show. We welcome you to call back anytime, but we do have 3 minutes left in the show, and I need to wrap up. I thank you for your call. It's much appreciated. Thank you, Dante.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. A lot with the blessings, it feels just like you're forced to do it, because then you feel guilty if you don't do that. So they're kind of almost forcing you to do something you might not want to do also. And they start you at a very young age, at age of 12, starting to do these service projects or all these other things. So they kind of ingrain it into your brain about that. And I mean, it's not bad to do service projects, but ever since I've left, I've noticed the non-Mormons are actually nicer people than the Mormons are. And when I was a member, they bind you to that. But I've seen service projects that aren't not from members, and they're so much nicer because they're doing it out of a sincere heart, not to get blessings.
And there doesn't have to be religious baggage involved. Like, what I was saying before with the threat of hell, it doesn't have to be involved. One thing that we did want to ask you, especially because, there was a lot of doubts going on pretty young in your guys' deconversion. What advice would you give to young people who are going through the same process, who are in serious religious households and might need some resources or advice to get out or to start thinking for themselves?
I would say there's a lot of good forums on the internet for support and a lot of good information out there, and definitely talking with people, even anonymous people online, can really help. And also, for really young kids, do be careful. You never know how your parents will react to your choice, and living, 1 or 2 years quietly is a lie. I mean, as bad as that sounds, if you can wait until you're 18 before you do it, definitely is, do that, because being kicked out or living your life that way, it can almost be more difficult.
We're down to 1 minute, and I want to give you guys 15 seconds to tell viewers how they can contact you should they have questions about your story, if they want to reach out to you and talk to you directly.
Well, for me, I have a Twitter account, LDS Colt 666, and they can tweet me with any questions.
And I don't have a Twitter account, but they can ask questions through Jacob for me as well. So.
All right, fair enough. All right, thank you, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure having you on Road to Reason, Skeptic's Guide to the 21st Century. I hope to have you back on at some point. It was a great discussion. Remember to tune in next week. We're going to have another exciting guest and discussion here on Road to Reason. Make sure to visit our Facebook page, like it, share it, check out our videos on YouTube, watch live every Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Fairfax Public Access, Channel 36. Thank you.